Mr. Chair, we are live on Facebook.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We have a packed agenda tonight, so we are going to follow the advice of FDR when it comes to public speaking and be sincere, brief, and seated. So let's remember that advice from our former president. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from April 29th. Are there any comments, modifications, concerns regarding the minutes from April 29th from anyone on the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion, Ms. McNulty, to approve the minutes from April 29th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's been a motion. I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes have been approved. Let's move on to item number, section 3, item A, new business. Mr. Depot. You're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate
You got it.
This is proposed ordinance number 934, amending chapter 164, the zoning ordinance, specifically Articles 1, Article 8, and Article 12. And essentially, this is for solar panel text amendment. So just for background, the city was approached by Alder Energy Systems requesting to place solar panels on the rooftop of the existing Westminster self-storage structure. The idea of these solar panels for this project is intended to be part of the Maryland's Community Solar Project pilot program that generates powers for members of the community who choose to subscribe to the program through BGE. The Alder Energy Systems did provide in attachment 1 some examples of other cities and counties in the state that have solar zoning ordinances or requirements. Currently in the city, solar fields and panels are not defined use and are not listed as an allowed use in the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is permissive and generally prohibits uses that are not expressly listed. So because of that, as a principal use, we can't allow solar fields or solar panels. However, the zoning ordinance does allow for the use of things that aren't listed expressly as an allowed accessory use. So in this case, what we've done in the city of Westminster is allow solar panels as an accessory use for power being generated on site only. So you typically see this when you're single family houses where they're providing energy or producing energy only for that home. In this case, however, the Westminster self-storage site, the solar panels are producing energy that exceeds the on-site need and therefore would be considered a principal use and then again not allowed by the zoning ordinance. So that led us to this text amendment we're looking at tonight. So on March 10th, 2021, the Economic Development Committee directed staff to bring forward a draft text amendment using that information in attachment 1 that I referenced as a general guide to the Mayor and Common Council. On April 12th, 2021, proposed ordinance number 934 was introduced to the council, and the council referred the proposed ordinance to the commission for its review and recommendation. So tonight, you're looking at the draft text and providing a recommendation to the Mayor and Common Council, who will ultimately adopt the ordinance. So as introduced to the Mayor and Common Council, just some of the changes or what we're proposing is adding a new definition of solar collector roof mounted, add new definition of solar facility roof mounted, add new solar facility roof mounted as a special exception use in the B business, IR restricted industrial, IG general industrial, and PI planned industrial zones, subject to special provisions. Now, although the proposed draft text recommends or states special exception, the Planning Commission ultimately can recommend whether these uses are a special exception use or permitted by right use. So you're not subject to it as a special exception use only tonight. So that's part of the discussion I think the Planning Commission needs to have. And then also providing new solar facility special provisions. These are those additional regulations specific to solar facilities. Furthermore, after we had that meeting with the Mayor and Common Council, we met with Alder Energy and Paradise Energy Solutions to talk about the draft text and potential changes to that. And through those discussions and through collaboration with these agencies or these businesses, we are proposing some general changes to the draft text tonight. We are defining Just great for solar collector roof mounted, and we are asking that we state on the property as opposed to on the premise. There's been some concern as to what on the premise means, so on the property is more defining. We're asking to relocate portions of the definition for solar collector roof mounted to another section of the ordinance for regulations applicable to all districts. So we had a pretty lengthy definition initially presented. We're taking out some of those definition standards or statements and placing it in a section already in the ordinance that are regulations, again, applicable for all districts, because the concept is the solar collectors can be used anywhere in the city as opposed to solar facilities. We are amending the definition of solar facility, again, referring to on the property as opposed to on the premise. And we are amending the special provisions for solar facilities to, 1, include solar collectors where applicable, 2, be consistent with standard industry practices, and 3, allow modifications to solar collectors located on non-flat roofs. So staff tonight has recommended the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation to approve proposed ordinance 926 as provided in attachment 4 of this report to the Mayor and Common Council. Furthermore, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission consider allowing the new solar facility roof mounted use as a permitted use in the B business, IR restricted industrial, IG, and PI zoning districts, subject to those additional regulations. And that completes my report. I know it's a lot, but it's a fairly basic amendment or draft text amendment to add this new type of use in the city.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from anyone on the commission?
I have a question. Are you recommending that it not be a special, did you say special exception?
Initially, we looked at a special exception use. With the additional regulations that we're proposing, these provisions that you'd be subject to meet, they're very similar to the type of things that we would look at as part of a special exception use. So what we're asking the Planning Commission to consider possibly as a permitted use because they are subject to these provisions. I think if the Planning Commission recommends special exception versus permitted use, I think we would still present that option to the Mayor and Common Council.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Sounds like staff is asking us to recommend this proposed ordinance. Anyone necessarily opposed or have any comments based on the staff's recommendation?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to forward a recommendation to approve proposed ordinance number 926 as provided in attachment 4 of this report to the Mayor and Common Council. And I'll also move that we recommend the additional second sentence of the staff's recommendation as well. Is that good enough for you, Mr. Gray?
That sounds good.
Okay, is there a second?
Not making it not be a special exception.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Second that.
Okay, there's been a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. All right, let's move on to item B. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just pull up the slideshow. Thank you. Wise Markets Incorporated, represented by Scout Services, applied for the review of an application for sign or awning for one 113.7 square foot wall mounted sign. The proposed sign is non-illuminated aluminum composite material panel. Staff has provided photos of the 3 building signs that are currently located on the front wall of the Wise Markets building, which are shown on the slideshow. For our outstanding issues, the proposed sign is not of the same materials, colors, and shapes as the 3 existing signs on the building. The 3 existing signs have individual letters, do not have a rectangular ACM background, and are mostly of the same color. The applicant should provide signage that is of the same materials, colors, and shapes as the other three signs located on the building. The commission should discuss the proposed materials, colors, and shapes of the proposed sign. Discussion should also include whether to include the aluminum composite material, the non-illuminated panel with the digital graphic background. No other sign on the building has this panel incorporated into their design. Additionally, several of the existing signs on the property never received the necessary city approvals and must receive such city approvals before any signage is approved on the property. Moving on to the next slide, the staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission consider approval of one proposed wall-mounted sign with the following conditions: that the sign is compatible in materials, colors, and shapes as the three adjacent signs located on the main building, located on the front of the building, and that Wise Markets and Bank of America receive proper sign permits for their existing unapproved signage. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I am here to answer any questions, and I am not sure if the applicant is online. But if you have any questions for me, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Is there anyone representing the applicant? Okay, doesn't sound like it. I don't know, but you guys seems fairly straightforward to me. I mean, I certainly think that, when it comes to signage, you kind of want it to look somewhat uniform and similar, and I don't know that I see any reason why the sign that's, I guess, the Weiss and Go or whatever you want to call it, couldn't just be freestanding, letters like Bank of America, Weiss, and Pharmacy. Seems fairly reasonable to ask them to do that. Suppose we could say, if you did that, then we would just blanket approve the current signs that are on the buildings and, not ask you to take them down, I guess is what would happen then, right, Mr. Gray?
Correct. We would like them to come in, get the applications for the unapproved signage, and also have their signage be, as you mentioned, somewhat uniform to the signs that are currently on the building.
Okay. Any comments from anyone else on the commission?
Seems okay to me.
I agree.
Where are they?
Paige?
I'm sorry. Where are they proposing that this additional sign go? Again, it's not replacing the white sign, correct?
It's a
That
new
is-
one.
That is correct, Commissioner Page. This sign would be proposed to go, I believe, right on the left of the Wise sign in the middle, but it would be between the Bank of America sign and the Wise sign with the yellow arrow pointing down, just like what's on the slideshow here on this slide.
And do you know how many additional unapproved signs they have? Is it 1? Is it 5?
For the property itself, it looks like the Bank of America and the Wise sign is not approved. Also, the main freestanding sign for Wise on 140 looks like it did not receive an application for sign or awning. However, the Applebee's signs and the Applebee's signs on their building, since that's one property, Bank of America, Wise, and Applebee's are on the same property. Those all received applications for sign or awning for Applebee's. So I think it would be 2 that did not receive a sign permit. And also in the staff report, there were some unapproved signage for the Wise Gas and Go as well.
Okay.
And if I could real quick, just, I'm not sure if the planning commission is aware of this, but every individual sign needs its own sign permit. So before you install a sign, you need a sign permit, and that's what we're asking for. The signs that are existing meet the design manual. That's what we're looking for, the individually channel lit letters, but each one needs its own sign permit.
Okay.
So that's what we're asking for. Just submit those sign permits. They're well under their amount of square footage, so they're not going to be denied those. We just need to make those legal, essentially, through that permit process.
Gotcha. I would say, to me, it should just be Weiss to go online, freestanding letters, now that's convenient, freestanding letter. And I think the arrow is just seems a little out of place. Because it's like, well, why not have an arrow for Bank of America and Weiss Market? Like, do we really need to be directed to where it is? Like, I mean, I would think that we could figure out, like, if you told someone on your website, come to the Weiss to go online sign, like, that's where I would go. Like, I don't need a letter pointing me to the Weiss Market or the Bank of America. So I'm of the opinion, unless are there any other comments? And again, I'm not in favor of like the blue background. I mean, I think it's just freestanding, letters, Weiss to go in those colors, and get rid of the arrow as well. Any other comments?
No, I agree.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Package.
to approve the proposed wall-mounted sign with the following conditions: that the sign is compatible in materials, colors, and shapes as the 3 adjacent signs located on the front of the building, with no arrow, if that could be noted as well, Mr. Gray.
Yes, sir. Thank
And
you.
that,
Chair.
and that, I think you understand what I'm saying, so you can put it in however you want to make the order there, Mr. Gray. And that Weiss Markets and Bank of America receive proper sign permits for their existing unapproved signage. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Ms. McNulty. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, the motion passes. Let's move on to, where are we? Item C. Ms. Gerhard.
Hi, thank you. This is for an amended site plan for 1300 Tech Court. It's for an addition. This addition is for the expansion of Flight Fab Inc., and they are a manufacturer of military aerospace and defense equipment. And we are here. Sorry, just moving this. The applicant is requesting to amend the previously approved 1300 Tech Court site development plan to include a 16,361 square foot building addition. So just to give you a little perspective as to where this building is, it's off of 97, and it's at the intersection of Arthur Peck Drive and Tech Court. So it's illustrated here with the star. The picture here on the side just gives you an idea of what the building currently looks like. Here is the site plan. The site plan here shows that 16,361 square foot addition. Also shows a paved area here, and that allows for machinery to get from the parking lot into the building itself. And also it shows the newly requested parking that goes along with the addition. So this is a little bit of a different circumstance of what we typically bring to you, because tonight I'm showing you, this is the existing landscaping that's currently on site. And this here shows the proposed landscaping for what would be required for the added addition, as well as the parking. So you can see that this, as an example, is something that would be required for the parking. So to give you an idea, this is the elevation of the proposed addition, and it is, I'm sorry, over here it is proposed to be of metal material. This plan meets all of the zoning ordinance requirements, and water has been tentatively allocated for this project. However, there are still 2 issues that are outstanding. One being the landscape modification, and the second being building design. On May 5th, the Community Planning and Development staff received a letter requesting a modification to the landscape manual requirement for VC1B. It's in your staff report as to the actual verbiage and everything, but I do have it on the screen for you to see. But to summarize, that there are, based on this requirement, there's a total of 27.5 Class B screening planting units that are required along both Arthur Peck and Tech Court together. This plan gives us 14.6 planting units, which are proposed. And due to the already existing infrastructure, which includes stormwater management, the applicant is seeking relief for 12.9 planting units. And this is not something that the Planning Commission is being asked to consider tonight, but that's just something I wanted to bring to your attention because the Director of Community Planning and Development actually has the authority to approve that request. But that's just one of the issues that we bring up for our conditional approval later. One of the things that you are charged with is to look at the design of the building. So as part of the design preference manual modification, we did look at the construct or the building material. And the current proposal is for the addition to be a metal building. Through the review process, community planning and development staff requested that the applicant continue the same masonry architectural features of the existing building instead of a full metal facade. And you can see how what type of information that we're looking for. This here is what we're asking to be continued. This the red brick line here, as well as the it can still be metal on top, but we're just asking that feature to go across. The applicant responded that they believe that the proposed building appearance will have a contemporary appeal and is consistent with similar buildings in the immediate area. And the Planning and Zoning Commission can dictate how the building should look while determining the modification for the design preference manual. And staff recognizes that there are buildings in the area that may represent both the views of staff and applicant. However, staff's request to improve upon the proposed architectural elevations is consistent with not only the existing development on site, but also with other buildings in the area, as well as with the development design preference manual itself. As also, in addition to also the extension of the architectural design that we're requesting continues the practice of providing consistent and improved architecture that meets the development design preference manual, not only within this industrial park itself, but also throughout the entire city of Westminster. So just to show you, once again, the existing building, which is 1300 Tech Court, and this is the proposed addition. And I thought that this was a good way to show you what it is that we are asking to be extended. And you can see that that would go right along the front. It's not just necessarily masonry, but also like the windows and just the overall concept of the building. Just to give you two examples, here is 1301 Tech Court, which is across the street, immediately across the street. And they do have one of the, the continuation along their side of their building, as well as this is 1228 Tech Court. And so Chair Albers, I don't know if you want to, if you'd like me to stop here for you to have your discussion, or you want me to continue, that's up to you.
Why don't we talk about this? Let's hear from the applicant. I guess my question, we have the applicant with us here tonight, correct? Is that
Yes,
Mr. Wagner? Oh,
yes.
Hey, Brian. I mean, I see it both ways here. We want the buildings to be uniform while we're not bound, I guess, by the design manual. It is sort of a guidance for us as commissioners. I suspect, Brian, does it cost more to have all this masonry versus sort of the metal work building? Is that sort of an issue for the applicant's view, is the cost of the addition?
That is one of the issues. One of the issues is that the cost of building materials and the redesign of the building to accommodate the masonry would be an issue. The applicant, he is on here, the owner is on, he can answer other questions that you may have. The idea that they wanted to bring a slightly more contemporary look. I don't know if Andrea, if you can go back to the other with the rendering. With the amount of landscaping that's already on the property as well, the building is actually going to be obscured. I do have some pictures if I can share my screen.
I mean, it definitely looks more contemporary, right? I mean, the masonry almost looks kind of old to me, like in a way, and like outdated. But Ms. McNulty or Mr. Beaver, any comments?
I like the newer design. I think the other one looks a little out of date, and I think it's busy enough. I think to add more of that. I think the new design is very contemporary. It's a nice asymmetric balance to the other building. And I like the way it looks.
Okay, Mr. Beaver, any comments from you?
Yeah, one part says make it all match and look the same, but I have to agree, it does, what's there looks dated, and I don't really have a problem with the new look.
Okay. Ms. Page or Mr. Cod?
I would agree with Ms. McNulty and Mr. Beaver.
Okay, how about you, Ms. Page?
You know my thoughts.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think we all understand what the staff's trying to do and what the design manual tells us, but, I think we all kind of tend to agree that it does look a little more modern and doesn't look completely out of place, in my opinion, from what's sort of existing there. I mean, my only other comment might be, the windows on the kind of that middle front section are larger. Maybe the windows on the metal portion could be as big. I don't know if that's, even relevant, but that's just something that kind of stands out to me. Not that I think it's a huge issue. I do think, though, kind of the different colors breaks it up. So if it was all white, I think that would look a little odd, but it has sort of some different, depth to it. So it doesn't just look like a giant white box.
Right. And the stripe still goes through it, like in the other buildings.
Yeah, I would say, the top of kind of the trim at the top, I would almost carry that over so that's not white and the trim at the top is the same as well, right? Because it looks more kind of uniform, but that's just a personal comment. I don't know if anyone has any comments based on what I've said.
Maybe if you got rid of that, they didn't have to concern themselves with the masonry, they may be able to make it nicer, add some features like that to make it look even more modern than it does there, at their own with staff.
Sure. Any comments from the applicant based on what the commission's feedback is?
I don't think I do. Rob, did you want to chime in with anything as far as, so the only request may be to either make the windows slightly larger, but maybe carry the trim across the top?
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if the rest of the commission agrees. I'm sort of seeing some head shaking. So, that's just a comment of ours.
Yeah, I'm not really that type of design guy, so the things that the staff would like once they figure, well, we're not going to go masonry, but can we do a few other things to it?
Yeah, true. I would kind of say that is, I would agree. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mr. Beaver. Ms. Gerhardt, any comments from you?
No, we can take everything that's being said into consideration, however the commission decides to move forward.
Okay, I think what the commission would say is, what is the recommendation? Conditional approved. Okay, so I would make a motion that there be conditional approval of the proposed site plan or site development plan with the following condition as outlined by the staff in their recommendation, along with the comments from the commission that it is our opinion that we would not require masonry to continue around the building, and that perhaps the staff and applicant could work out the money saved and sort of no masonry could be worked out in maybe making it look even more modern and nicer than it already is. Does that make sense, Mr. Gray, Ms. Gerhard?
Yes, thank you.
Is there any comments from the applicant? Does that work for you all?
Mr. Piaccese, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and the cost to do that masonry is quite significant. So I think we can. I think if you also saw some of the landscaping work that's there, you'd realize how much of that building is actually covered up. Brian didn't show it, but it's pretty substantial, given that the landscaping is now 10 plus years old.
What's cheaper, masonry or wood right now?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's our, is there a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
Ms. Page is second to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, okay, let's see, where are we now? We just did Weiss conditional site. We're on item D, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me pull the slideshow up. All right. Nagan West LLC, represented by Carroll Land Services, Inc., has applied for review of the proposed final plat for Stonegate Section 5. The purpose of the plat is to create 40 new single-family detached residential lots and applicable easements and roadways. Staff has no outstanding issues with this project. Staff recommendation is staff recommends that the commission consider approval of the proposed final plat F180079 for Stonegate Section 5. Mr. Chair, the applicant is here, and I'm also here to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, the staff is asking us to, his recommendation is that we consider approval.
Yes, sir.
Okay, from the applicant, any reasons for us to not consider approval?
No, sir. This section 5, we have one more section to go after this. It's a large project, but we're nearing the end and the finish line. It's been a great market, and we're just looking forward to finishing the project as we go forward.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from anyone on the commission? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed final plat as outlined in draft motion number 1 by the staff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. McNulty has seconded my motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Got it. All right, let's see. Where are we now? We are on item E. 2020 Carroll County Planning Annual Report Approval. Mr. Gray and Ms. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The city and county planning departments both work closely on the planning annual report each year. In February, I presented to the commission what was sent to the county planning department for the city portion of the planning annual report. Staff requests the Planning and Zoning Commission review and approve the 2020 Carroll County Planning Annual Reporting information pertaining to the city of Westminster as presented by county planning staff, and authorize the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission to sign the attached letter of certification that will be placed in the 2020 Carroll County Planning Annual Report, signifying commission approval. I will turn the presentation over to Miss Mary Lane from Carroll County Planning. Ms. Lane.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you for your help with this and your attention to detail and accuracy throughout this. As Andrew said, I'm Mary Lane. I'm the planning manager for the Carroll County Planning Department. And I am here today seeking your certification of the 2020 annual report. I did not prepare a slideshow, but I will just briefly go over the document that you received, I believe, on April 23rd. As Andrew briefly went over, the planning report is required by the state under the land use article to report planning development activities for the calendar year. This report describes the type, location, and stage of development that occurred during the previous year. Development-related activities are required to be consistent with the adopted plans of the jurisdiction and should implement the state planning visions. So as Andrew said, each year in January, our department requests the following from each town. First, residential subdivisions. There were 2 residential subdivisions approved in Westminster in 2020. Those are noted on page 14. Stonegate Section 4, which was 41 lots on 12.7 acres, and Westminster Way 1, which was 35 multifamily apartment buildings on 2 acres. On page 15, you'll see commercial industrial site plans, and I will just briefly list those. McDaniel College Decker Center, Mission Barbecue, 7-Eleven store, Royal Farms, West End Place Family Support Center, and Starbucks ADA Sidewalk Edition. We also asked for residential preliminary plans for 2020. There were none. Rezonings and annexations are on page 17. There were 2 annexations. The map is on page 18. Regarding zoning text amendments, there were 2 zoning text amendments in Westminster in 2020, and those are described on page 19. Regarding new parks, the only new park is on page 23, Wakefield Valley Park. New roadway construction was also requested. There are 9 new roads that were put into place in 2020. Those are on pages 21 and 22. Regarding APFO restrictions on page 22, there is a description of resolution 20-06, which amended the master distribution chart and water and sewer allocation policy. And regarding new plans or amendments to adopted plans on pages 2 and 3, excuse me. On pages 2 and 3, there are amendments to the Carroll County Water and Sewer Plan, and the maps are included on pages 5 and 8. The county also compiles the following for the entire county, including within each priority funding area, municipal growth area, and designated growth area. This information can be found on pages 26 through 43. Included is the number of residential dwelling units, both inside and outside of the PFA, MGA, and designated growth area. The number of non-residential units, again, inside and outside the PFA, MGA, and DGA. The number of preliminary plans approved, the recorded lots. And for Westminster, I'm on page 32 now. It indicates, I'm sorry, that's a map that indicates the new residential lots recorded in Westminster. The building permits issued, that map is on page 34. Use and occupancy certificates are on page 35. There were 49 residential, 103 residential improvement, 2 commercial and industrial, and 30 commercial industrial improvement. And last, the BLI, the building land inventory for the entire county, which indicates that there are 2,820 potential lots in the Westminster MGA. That's on page 39. And regarding the non-residential BLI, there are 728 potential acres in the Westminster MGA DGA, and that's on page 42. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the 2020 Carroll County Planning Annual Reporting Information as outlined in the request by the staff in their memorandum. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second.
Ms. McNulty has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to our favorite part of the night, Carroll County Liaison Report with Ms. Weber.
Wow, what a compliment. Thank you.
Yes.
Just 2 quick updates. The Planning Commission is still going through the residential text amendments, and we are going to be forwarding that to the county commissioners sometime this summer. And we are in the early process of the transportation master plan. And part of the launch is we are soliciting responses for a countywide survey from citizens to kind of get their feelings on what can be improved with the infrastructure and things like that. And that's about it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Any questions from anyone on the commission? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, Ms. Weber. Moving on to item G, the most controversial issue of the night, Planning and Zoning Commission elections. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, staff requests the Planning and Zoning Commission elect from amongst its members a chair and vice chair to serve a term of 1 year.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Happy to do it again. Have enjoyed doing it, but don't care if someone else wants to step up and do it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So, but happy to fall on the sword if wanted. So your guys' call.
I'd like to nominate Ross Albers as chair and Kevin Beaver as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in
Agreed.
favor? Is Mr. Beaver, that okay with you? Better ask. We always got to ask.
Not here to elect.
Linda, you were quick to give up that vice chair position. I'll tell you what, man.
I'm still fairly new and I just think he's so highly qualified.
Oh, okay.
Maybe in a couple years after I watch you all do it, a couple more years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. All right. Well, Mr. Cod, so you know, since you're the newest member, so when we get back to in person, that means newest member buys drinks afterwards. So you've got the bar tab for the next year. Okay. All right. All in
I will
favor?
accept.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
There we go. Okay. We'll see you at Paradiso after the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we voted. So is everyone in favor of myself and Mr. Beaver being chair and vice chair?
Aye.
Okay, great. That passes. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Let's move on to nothing under old business. Looks like Mr. Gray relocating in-person meetings to 45 West Main Street. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just get the slideshow up here. There we go. As you are aware, the city administrative offices has relocated to the newly redeveloped 45 West Main Street. As part of this redevelopment, a new community meeting room has been provided in the basement of the building. At such time, the mayor and common council reopen the city administrative offices to the public, the commission can begin to meet in person in this community meeting room. I have taken photos of the room, which are located on the slideshow. This room is larger than the city council chamber and will not involve setting up a remote location that must be unlocked and locked. Planning staff works in this building and preparing the meeting room would take less time and effort. Also, just to show you the layout of the basement from part of the mayor and common council packet, the community meeting room is quite large. So it would be much larger than the current council chambers. And that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Gray, there is a panic button in case an angry citizen gets past Mr. Bieber and close to me, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is.
Okay, good. I'll say I have had a chance. I would say everyone on the commission, if you hadn't had a chance, reach out to Mr. Gray and go take a tour of the new building. It's pretty cool. It's a neat space. So yeah, I know Andrew is happy to walk you around, and he's very proud of it too. And it's pretty neat. So check it out. Okay, I guess we are on to adjournment. Let me add this as a final comment. I thought this was one of our best meetings that we've ever had as a group. I thought the staff's memos and reports were, sincere and brief and clear and concise. I thought their visual aids were really helpful, at least for me. I'm a visual person. And I was really impressed with our dialogue. And, I think these are the types of meetings that in 45 minutes, we can go through 7 different items that have various different issues. And, there was things that the applicants and the staff didn't agree on, but we were able to come, I think, to terms with things that worked out for everyone. So I just want to say kudos to you, Mr. Beaver, Ms. McNulty, Ms. Page, and Mr. Cod, and to the staff. I honestly really truly believe this was one of our best and most productive meetings we've ever had. And I might argue maybe in the history of planning and zoning ever. So great job to the staff. And I know we're trying to get a date to get together. I think the purpose of that, I think it would be helpful, as Ms. McNulty pointed out, we all come on this commission and we really don't know what we're getting into. There's not like a training or anything that the city sends us to say, hey, this is what the Planning and Zoning Commission is. We're just kind of put on there and sort of figure it out as we go along. And I think it might be helpful, maybe once a year or something, to just regroup and let the staff know what's working for us and let them know what's not working. And I think the result of that is a meeting like tonight, which is good for the city and good for the applicants and good for the staff. So kudos to everyone. With that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you all.